Hi everyone, welcome to my latest vlog. This episode I'm heading down to South Carolina, Columbia and Charleston to be exact. Now, why Columbia? And a lot of times people thought I was going to the actual country Columbia, but no, it's Columbia, C-O-L-U-M-B-I-A, which is the capital of South Carolina. For those that don't know, I'm a big Manchester United fan, and it's very hard for me to go and see them play. Not living in England, but during the off season they generally go on tour somewhere in the country, somewhere around the world, and they've been out to Australia a few times. They've been to Asia. This year they were heading to the United States, and they were doing a couple of games in California, in LA and San Diego. Then they're also doing one in Colombia. And so I thought, look, I'm in the country. It's an hour-and-a-half flight away. I would be mad not to try and go and see them play. And then someone at work told me, hey, actually Charleston's only a couple of hours by bus, and it's a really beautiful town. Why don't you just go there afterwards? Because I had thought of just staying in Columbia and staying for the weekend. So I thought, well, what a great adventure. Let's go and have a weekend away somewhere different that isn't New York, isn't Washington. Start to see more of this country that I'm living in. So I went, right, let's do it. And I had to try and plan it properly. So I've got my computer up, and I've got to look at flights to see if there's flights coming in to Columbia, that there's a flight home from Charleston because I'm going Washington, Columbia, then a bus, is there one available, then a plane back up to Washington. Can I get a ticket? Is it already sold out? So I did all of that and booked it all, and so I've got a couple of flights, a bus trip and a ticket to Man United. Really, really excited. Then started, planning what I was going to do when I got to Charleston. The day before I left, though, I was just making sure I knew where I needed to be, that it was just cross-checking things, and then worked out that my flight home from Charleston to Washington was on the exact same day that I was flying out to Columbia. So I inadvertently booked both flights for Saturday instead of one for Saturday and one for Tuesday, and I felt like such an idiot. Because you then think, well, you've gone with the cheapest flights, so obviously you're not going to get your money back, and you've still got a flight to Columbia and a bus to Charleston, so how are you going to get home? So I had to cancel the flight. I got a little bit of money back, but then had to book another flight 3 days before the flight. So of course it was a bit more expensive than it was probably double the price. So I felt like such an idiot. What a stupid thing to do. But, it's a good life lesson of plan properly anyway. So I redid all of that, and then the next day headed off to Columbia. So Columbia is what they call a college town. It's probably got about 150,000 people, which is it's a nice, decent size. But really, it's a surge. During summer, which is when I went there, there's not many people there because they all go to the University of South Carolina. What the University of South Carolina have also, though, is a massive big stadium, about 70-odd thousand people. So that's where the game was going to be. I landed there about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The game was starting at about 7:45, and it was just torrential downpour. And I hoped that it was going to stop in time for the game, and it did. We ended up only ever getting spots, bits and pieces of rain later on, so it went past pretty quickly, so that was good. I went out to get a taxi. And it's the first first airport that I've ever been that there doesn't seem to be any taxi rank. There's no taxis anywhere. And I think In retrospect, there probably were, but because so many people are coming for the game, and the game was Manchester United versus Liverpool, so, you know, obviously Manchester United's a very popular team and has a lot of fans, but Liverpool's no slouch either. So there was a lot of, you know, I think there was a lot of taxis and Ubers that were already overworked. So I called an Uber to get from the airport to my motel. It's a motel, it's not a hotel. Anyhow, I'll talk about that later. And so off I went, got to my hotel. It was very close to the airport. And I sort of said to them, oh, you know, I'm going to go to the game. I'm just going to quickly get changed. And maybe, is there a taxi or an Uber? You know, what would be better to get to the game? I had done some planning and knew that it was only about a 15-minute car ride. And so they sort of said to me, well, you better get it quick because it's going to take a while to get there. The Ubers are all maxed out. The taxis are all maxed out. You know, you better get going soon. So I thought, all right, we'll quickly get changed. And I think about 6 o'clock, I had an Uber come and pick me up. Now, I reckon that it was going to be about $32 or something. And I just went, oh, all right, then, well, you know, I've got no other way of getting there. So off I go in this Uber. And he was a lovely guy. We're chatting away. And then we got to the traffic, trying to get to the game. And I swear, it took us an hour to get even close to the ground. And I was thinking, oh my God, I better give him a big tip when I get out of here, because my understanding is that Uber, you get a set price and that's what you agree to when you book them. He eventually said, because it was after 7 or something like that, that he sort of said, you might want to get out now. I think you're probably close enough that it's not that far a walk. And otherwise, I don't think I can get you to the front. So I went, look, thanks anyway. Thank you so much. And I got out thinking, right, better tip him now before I forget. And then I checked my phone, and Uber had charged a surge fee, which upped the bill to $70 US. And I just thought, oh my God, this is terrible. What a really expensive way to get to the game. Anyway, I just kept walking for about 15-20 minutes. I reckon by the time I got in time to hear them sing the end part of You'll Never Walk Alone, which is the Liverpool song that they always sing. So it's about 15 minutes before kickoff. So anything that I wanted to do beforehand, to pick up any merch or do anything like that, there was no chance to do that. And I thought, well, I won't be try afterwards. The game, oh look, we did lose 3-0. It was the first time I've been watching United live in the same stadium, and they've lost. So I figured the odds were that was going to eventually happen, but I'd had it 100% run up until then. But you know, the game is the game. I was happy to see it. I've never seen Liverpool play live, so that was good as well. But I did start to think, how are you going to get home? Because I realised there was no buses, there's no trains. The only way into and out of this stadium is through a car, by a car. And I thought, oh well, I'll work it out later. Anyway, once the game finished, everyone started clearing out. There was a lot of people that had started moving out earlier, and I know that some people had driven a fair while, so they were trying to avoid the traffic. I just realised I just had to start walking towards my motel and work something out. And it's a little bit late at night, it's dark, there's no nice footpaths or anything like that. But there was a whole pile of people doing it. It was like we're on a route march, because they closed the perimeter around. So like about a 5-kilometre perimeter around this stadium They have, they don't let any cars in. It's only cars going out. So it's designed so that, you know, there's free flowing traffic out and you can get them out quickly. But my God, and there was 77,000 of us there, but there were so many of us that had obviously flown in for this game and didn't have cars, and then had to walk 5 kilometres to find somewhere outside this perimeter that an Uber would come and pick you up. And then you just had to wait for an Uber because they were all busy. So I finally found a service station, and went, you know what, well, that's a whole pile of other people were waiting as well. So I was like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing now. And I think by the time I got back to my motel, it was after 11:30. So the game had finished at 10. So it took me a good hour and a half to get home. So I did talk to the taxi driver and say, what the hell's going on? I mean, this must not be an uncommon thing. I mean, you've got a stadium that holds nearly 80,000 people. You must have this all the time. Have you ever thought to just get some buses in or something? But, you know, look, I got home, and this is about the first time I really thought, as a solo traveller, I'm a bit vulnerable, and I'm not sharing Ubers with people. I'm not able to converse with people if I am having to wait and things like that. So I did think that I probably need to do a lot better at organising trips, especially when they're going into small towns like Columbia, rather than, you know, like New York, it's fine. Washington, it's fine. There's a heap of public transport to get you around, and it's really easy to get around. But yes, I need to figure out, if I'm going to these smaller towns, how best to do it. So yeah, I saw the game. The motel was dodgy as. It was one of those ones that you see in American TV where, you know, you've got the ice machine down the road, and you've got a swimming pool that no one's swimming in. The room itself just needed a lot of work, and yeah, I wasn't having a shower in that bathroom. No, I figured I'll wait till I get to Charleston. So the next morning I was up bright and early to head out to the bus depot to catch the megabus bus to Charleston. It was about a 3-hour drive, and but the bus depot was just in an industrial park on the outskirts of town, which I thought was weird because our bus depots are in town, so easy to get to. Anyway, headed off on the bus. Look, it was a cheaper mode of transport. I think it only cost maybe $30 to get on the bus. The seats were badly stained, and my fellow travellers, a lot of them looked like they'd had a much worse life than me. But it was a means to get to Charleston, so the bus ride itself was really fine though. I mean, the guy stopped a couple of times and I got to see a few things, like a Piggly Wiggly. I didn't get to go into a Piggly Wiggly, but I saw a sign for a Piggly Wiggly. That could be one of my goals, that when I'm here, I want to get to a Piggly Wiggly. Anyway, so I saw some good things along the way, some nice scenery. Bus was it was comfortable, and the driver was really nice, got us into Charleston on time. So I was happy with that. It was really good. When I got there, that's when I got an alert on my phone to say that there's some bad weather on the way. So unbeknownst to me, it's hurricane season down south, and Hurricane Debbie was just about to make landfall in Florida, and that was going to affect everyone up that east coast, including Charleston. So she was bringing strong winds, flooding, tornadoes, and it started raining a few hours after I got to Charleston and pretty much didn't stop the entire time. It was also really hot and humid, like far north Queensland gets. So I just needed to change some plans. I have had the alerts before on my phone, but these were coming through thick and fast that I just thought, oh, I don't know. And all of the TV stations were nothing but, you know, Hurricane Debbie and what was going to happen and what everyone had to do to prepare.
Hurricane Debbie made landfall just before 7 a.m. Eastern time in Stevens, Florida, which is off to our east-southeast here. We're still dealing with the gusty winds as well as bands of rain coming in.
And tornadoes.
As we take a look at where the storm is now and where it's headed next. There's that 50-mile-per-hour maximum sustained winds, but it's moving slowly, only 6 miles per hour. Notice the lines that go across that cone are points in time. It could be anywhere along that line at that point in time. But
so I did think I maybe should have rethought this and maybe just gone straight home after the United match. So all this bad weather meant that I probably had to change some plans. The first afternoon, I always had planned to just walk around the historic part of Charleston, so I did that and I saw some great things. I headed down to what they call Rainbow Row, which is a whole pile of different coloured houses, terraced houses. Looked fantastic, but there was also trees in front, which made it really difficult to take a picture. Now you'll notice in some of those, or any, I mean, there might be more photos, I don't know how many I've got, that have like an oil lamp at the front of the house. And these are on. And I was talking to someone later on a ghost tour that I'll tell you about in a sec. And I was saying about the oil lights. And apparently underground there's an oil or gas main. And it's pretty much the ordinance of the city that if you've got a gas lamp, it has to be on all the time, which I think is an absolute waste. Looked really pretty and looked really pretty at night, but yeah, what a waste of gas. Anyway, so I had a look around, and then on the way back, it was starting to rain then, so I thought I'd better get out of here. And I got on a bus and saw that there was a museum just very close to my hotel. And so I thought I'd stop. And it was the oldest museum in North America, which makes me think there might be an older museum in South America. Who knows? But it had, it wasn't overly large. There was a replica of the Rosetta Stone and a few other bits and pieces. But it was dry and it was okay. And I think, because I'm thinking, well, I don't really want to go out in that rain. But so this was something to do. So I headed back to my hotel. Now, the hotel was called the Limited Hotel. It was absolutely much better than the motel. Really, really nice. And they even had water, like a lovely jug of water or container of water, cold water. But they also had some, I don't know, it was like an apple strawberry juicy type of a thing that was so tasty. So yeah, loved that place. That was absolutely fantastic. And so I did have, I had booked one thing, only thing I'd booked, and I'm happy about that because there was a lot of things cancelled, and it was a ghost tour. So I needed to find somewhere to have dinner. So I took my umbrella and off I went, and I found this seafood restaurant. They had a huge lineup. So they had like a bar area, and then they had the restaurant area, and there was just people waiting to get into the restaurant part. And the guy said to me, well, if you don't mind sitting at the bar, you know, you can get in now, otherwise it's a 1 hour wait. I'm thinking, well, you know, I've got a ghost tour to go to, I better I'll just sit at the bar. And I got these really nice prawns and corn ribs. They also had some things like deep fried cornbread, so like little, what they called pups, but they were about that big. And I thought, oh, deep fried. Normally, me deep fried, I'm in. But cornbread was just so sweet to have with, and prawns are pretty sweet anyway. And I just thought it's just a bit too cloying, so I didn't eat them. But the corn ribs were nice. And it wasn't until afterwards, when I was leaving Charleston, and I saw this big ad before the place, that I realised how prestigious the seafood restaurant was. So I was happy to have gone there. It was a very nice meal. And I did notice, I went to the toilet, and throughout the restaurant there was just whole piles of photos and of people that had dined there. And it was quite a range: sports people, actors, politicians. It was a popular place. All the talk though at the bar was about the cancelled flights, the people leaving early, that this is only going to get worse and there's no way you'll be able to get out of here. And I started thinking, what do I do? Should I just go home? Because I wasn't too sure. But then I was thinking, you've already wasted so much money on the flight because you stuffed up the original booking. What do you do? And I'm not a good flyer either, and I did think, is the flight home just going to be horrendous because it's just going to be strong winds even if we do go? And I tried to look for a train, but the trains were cut. They were stopping them as well between certain parts of, from Florida up to South Carolina. They'd stopped them, and then they were only starting again from North Carolina up. So it sort of became a bit of a, well, you know what, let's just see what fate has in store. I either am going to have to stay a bit longer in Charleston, or I'll be able to get out. Who knows? I thought I'd just wait and see. It was still another day and a half before I had to even think about leaving. So I thought, look, let's just leave it to fate and see what happens. So I headed off to my ghost tour, and I thought it's just a bit of fun. I don't really believe in ghosts, but I thought, this will be just something. And, a nice atmospheric place. The weather was holding off, so I was happy with that. So I headed down to start the ghost tour. And it was really quite interesting in that they were telling you a bit of the story of Charleston and some of the people there that were haunting the graveyards and the cemeteries. We first found out the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery. So a graveyard is it's something that's attached to a church, whereas a cemetery isn't. So we got to see both and have a bit of a walk around, and it was just really, really nice. There was some old graves there. We saw the oldest grave either in South Carolina or in Charleston, I don't know, but it was like a bunker, that one. They'd actually asked for that, so that's what they got. They also talked about orbs and ghosts, the ghosts that they'd seen and everything. I saw no ghosts. Some woman was taking photos and reckoned she had all these orbs, or had an orb in her photo. I have a feeling it was just a street light, but I didn't want to, rain down on her night. I'm sure she thought she had a ghost. But the interesting story was about this guy who had run away because he had a whole pile of debts and joined the army in Charleston, and he fell in love with one of the main officers' 14-year-old daughter, and he was 22, and and his name was Edgar Perry or something like that, Perry anyway. So they father found out, didn't want his, admittedly 14, no one wants their 14-year-old hanging out with a 22-year-old, even if it was 300 years ago. And so he tried to stop them, and he locked her up, and I don't know, something happened that she ended up dying. And this guy was bereft. He'd been writing poems about her and everything like that, and he was so unhappy. Well, it turned out it was Edgar Allan Poe. And look, I did a bit of Googling afterwards, because as soon as you tell me it's Edgar Allan Poe, I'm going to go Google this. And I couldn't find anything about Edgar Allan Poe and this 14-year-old. He definitely did live in Charleston, and he was in the army there, and he was running away from debt. But I also read that he ended up marrying his 15-year-old cousin. And I just thought, I don't want to know any more about Edgar Allan Poe. Never more. That's what I say about Edgar Allan Poe, never more. But the ghost tour was fantastic, and these beautiful trees and really nice areas. So I was happy to have done that. Like I said, that was the only thing I'd actually booked and paid for before I went, and I was glad I did it. It was good fun. So the next morning, what I had planned to do was go out to a plantation, the Boone Hall plantation, and just see a reproduction of life back in the 1800s. And it was going to be I was really looking forward to it. It was one of what I thought was going to be one of the highlights of the trip. And then in the afternoon, I was going to go to Fort Sumter. Now, this is a little island just in the bay at Charleston. And this is where the Civil War started. This is where the first shots were fired and Civil War started. So I thought, oh, this will be interesting. We'll take a boat ride out across the bay and have a look at that. That'd be really nice. So I checked with the plantation first because the weather wasn't getting any better. I'm still getting lots of warnings. And so I thought, right, well, let's just check. Now, Boone Hall Plantation was shut because they have a lovely dirt road in, so that was a bit wet and muddy, and so they weren't opening. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just walk down to the wharf where the boat takes off from Fort Sumter, and I'll do that instead. Well, I've got down there, and that's shut because of the hurricane. And I'm thinking, but it's just raining now. We're not getting strong winds. And I'm thinking, why? Oh, I suppose they've got to be careful. It's better to be, safe than sorry. So then it was like, okay, well, the two things that I'd really been looking forward to doing, I couldn't do. And so I just thought, oh, what's the bloody point? But there was an aquarium next door, and I just thought, okay, well, let's just go to the aquarium and have a look. They're going to have nice fish. Why not? So headed in there. It was a small aquarium and a very expensive aquarium, but, I wasn't spending money in anywhere else. So, and it was a very nice, it's a nice aquarium. And then I looked out on the bay, and I saw a dolphin. So that wasn't part of the aquarium. But they do say, hey, look, there's dolphins out there. They'll put on a free show for you. And there's the nice bridge and everything like that. And so I thought, oh, this is nice. Again, if it's raining, I'm at least somewhere dry. They had some birds that they'd rescued, like this spoonbill and things like that. What was the real surprise, though? There was a bald eagle. Now, I'd seen a bald eagle at the Zoo. The Washington Zoo. I don't know where I got Edinburgh from. But from the Washington Zoo, if you saw that episode, I mean, I might have taken a photo of it. It was way up the back, and it looked really small. It didn't look healthy. And I just went, oh, that's a bald eagle. But this one at the aquarium was pretty stunning looking. And it's doing that shot that you see with it's looking that way. So I got a photo of that and then thought, I'm going to try and get some really good close-ups. And it was a beautiful looking bird. So that was sort of the highlight. They do some green turtle rescue, or any turtle rescue really, so sea turtles. And so there was that as well. And I was so happy I went. It wasn't the worst aquarium. Oh, was it the worst aquarium I've ever been? It was a small aquarium. But it was nice. It was okay. And not what I'd asked for, but, okay, that's what we're going to do. So, happy enough with that. So that afternoon, I really wasn't too sure what to do, but I knew that the USS Yorktown, a decommissioned aircraft carrier, had a museum. And someone at work had sort of said, it's not bad. And I'm thinking, well, what are my options? I can just sit in my room watching the rain, or just go out and do the USS Yorktown, that beautiful bridge that's at Charleston. I managed to get on that, so that was good. I like that. So I headed over to the USS Yorktown, and this was a little godsend. This was really fantastic. So they've done a brilliant job. So it's a huge, huge ship, as you can imagine. And what they've done is they've got I don't know what's the flight deck and what's not. So they've got the bit up the top where all of the aircraft take off and land, but then just below there is where you could store them all. And that was just amazing. And they had a space shuttle-y, no, what is it? Some kind of space capsule-y thing there, whole pile of aircraft. It was really, really good. What they'd done is that they'd put 4 tours in place. So, and these were self-guided tours, or they had quite a few volunteers there that were obviously ex-servicemen and probably had served on the ship because it'd been in service for quite a while. And so they could have given you a guided tour. I've decided not to do that. And it was really easy. So 4 different parts to the ship that took you all around. And I was really, really impressed. It was a really nice setup, what they'd done. There was even an escalator in there. Who knew that in the 60s they decided to put an escalator in? That could be, I don't think it was for their own comfort. It could be to help move stores and everything. There was an interactive bit where you could make your own badge. So I made one, and it was, it's this here. So it's the Medal of Honor Museum at Patriots Point. So Patriots Point is where the USS Yorktown is situated, and citizenship. I thought that was good. And then I put it on gold with green around it. So it's an Australian one, which, you know, wasn't the point of it, but I don't care. I made it with an eagle, and we'll just pretend that's a wedge-tailed eagle. So that was lots of fun. Then they had a Vietnam part, and it was like a recreation of not a barracks, so their camp. Then there was an area where there was full-on noises. It scared the bejesus out of me when it started going off, and it was really loud. I know the bit that I got here, there was only a little bit of shooting and things like that, but look, they were, and they did have a big warning to say, hey, there's recreation of noises, of battle noises here, just to make sure you're aware of it. So it was really good. So I really enjoyed that, and I wasn't planning on going there, and I was so glad look, I still would have liked to have gone out to Fort Sumter and gone out to a plantation, but it was better than sitting in my room all afternoon. And I think if I was going back there, well, if I was talking to people about Charleston, I'd say, look, if you get a chance to see the USS Yorktown, it's worth it. It's really worth a trip. So that was good. So I went to a restaurant just across the road for dinner, and I think it was nachos. And that was quite nice. It was close. And so that's why I went there. But it was very nice. I feel bad. It was called Bedford Falls, which made me think of It's a Wonderful Life, because that's the town that he lives in. Oh, I've forgotten his name. Jimmy Stewart. No, anyway, Bedford Falls. It was a nice place to go have dinner, and so I just went back. And look, the next morning, my flight wasn't until about 2 o'clock, and I have been keeping an eye on things, and American Airlines, which is who I flew with, seemed to be flying. There's others that were like Delta and Southwest that had cancelled, and so I thought, look, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe they will be out, and they'll fly, and I'll work it out. And so I didn't. It was really coming down hard the next day, and so where I would have walked around a bit more and gone seen a few other bits and pieces, there was no point. I went and had breakfast, and then just went watched a bit of the Olympics. Was I watching the basketball? Anyway, headed off to the airport. I know that when I left, the lady said, oh, we're doing an Italian buffet for dinner tonight in the hotel. And I said, okay, well, I'm leaving today. And she went, well, if your flight's not cancelled, you can always come back. I just thought, shit, I hope not. But hey, at least there was an Italian buffet if I had to go back there again. By the time I got to the airport, look, it was still coming down, but the flights were going. And honestly, we got on the flight. They did say, look, it's going to be a bit bumpy. We're going to try our best. We'll try and get the sign off so that you can get up and walk around if need be. But, just be prepared. Well, I tell you, it was pretty good going in. I mean, it was only an hour and a half as well. By the time you get up there and do a bit of flying, you're already there. I mean, I was happy to see Washington again, and got a few shots because there was no one next to me, so I got to sit near the window, so that was nice. Look, Charleston, what do I say about Charleston? it was just a shame about the weather. And I know Colombia pissed me off and I wasn't having a good time. And I know normally I'm very Pollyanna with my holidays, but I've realised I'm very, very lucky that my holidays generally go very well and there's not a lot that happens that's not, you know, that's not nice. So I should really be very grateful that the most that happened was I got rained on and I had to pay a little bit of extra money, but the extra money was just my own stupidity. I did end up spending a lot on Ubers the whole weekend. That was mostly because the Ubers were expensive because everyone was getting Ubers because it was raining. I think I probably wouldn't have gotten Ubers as much because I would have walked where I could. So I feel that Charleston, I did it a disservice. I didn't go at the right time, but it was the United game that dictated when I went. I would encourage people to go back to go to Charleston. It's a nice place. I don't know if I'll go back. I don't know. It's one of those things that if I get an opportunity to go somewhere, do I go somewhere where I've never been or do I go somewhere where I have been? It's probably going to be somewhere I haven't been. But look, that was Charleston, Columbia and South Carolina. There was a lot of good southern hospitality there. I started to hear some of those southern accents. There were girls in miniskirts and cowboy boots, and it was a good experience. It just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out, but hey, that happens. Until next time, I don't know where I'm going to go, but tune in and I'll let you know. See ya.